What's up, guys? It's MB Boxing, and today I'm going to be predicting the outcome of Jamal James versus Thomas Dulorme, which will be a 12-rounder for the interim WBA Welterweight World Championship, and this fight will be broadcasted live on Fox Saturday, August 8th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, and this will be at the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles, California. And to get into both fighters, Jamal James, fighting out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, has a record of 26-1. With 14 wins by way of knockout. He's coming off probably his career best win over Antonio DeMarco. He also has a win versus Abel Ramos, who's most notably known for stopping Brian Perella in the 10th and final round in the last second. That fight was pretty controversial. Go check that fight out on PBC's YouTube channel. But more into Jamal James. He is coming off a war versus Antonio DeMarco last year, as I said before. That fight went the distance. Early on, that fight was very close. Both fighters were trading, and it was just a war in Minneapolis. It was the main event of the card last year, July 13th, 2020. That card also had Gerald Washington versus Hellenius and Martin versus Martz on that card. That was a pretty decent card. But Jamal James, he's really a home-style fighter. He brings a huge fan base out of Minneapolis, but it's kind of sad that he can't now because of the coronavirus protocols. But he promised to his fans that he put on a good show and bring the belt back home. And probably a win over Dulorme might set him up versus a fight versus Ugas, a rematch versus Ugas, as he did fight Ugas and lost. That's his only defeat. Or a fight versus Alexander Rasputin, who's currently the WBA regular champion. Or maybe versus Manny Pacquiao, since they are in PBC. But his opponent, Thomas Dulorme, I think he's just more experienced than Jamal James, as he's 25-3 with one draw, fighting out of Puerto Rico. Dulorme has fought for the title once, losing by TKO in the 6th round to Terrence Crawford, and he's also got a loss to Luis Carlos Abreu, who is 33-1 at the time by TKO, and he has a decision loss, a very close decision, I gotta say. It was 93-92 on all three judges' scorecards versus Yordenis Ugas, and that fight was a war. When I say one of the best fights, I think this fight was better than the Antonio DeMarco versus Jamal James fight, and that fight was a very good fight, one of the best of 2019. But in that fight, Dulorme was dropped twice in the second round, then came back to win some of the rounds, then round 7 dropping Yordenis Ugas with a huge left hook. But then he got deducted a point later on, so if there was not a point deduction, that fight would have been scored a draw. But being that some of the referees are biased, I don't think they should have deducted that point. I think it should have been a draw, and still, it is what it is. He did move on, got a couple wins, and now he's back in title contention. And a win tonight could definitely skyrocket him into major world titles, like against Manny Pacquiao, since he is in PBC, as I said before about Jamal James. Same with Yordenis Ugas for maybe a regular title, who's also in PBC, which will be a rematch since both fighters, Jamal James and Dulorme, both fought Ugas. And in those fights, I see Dulorme maybe winning versus Ugas this time in a rematch, but Jamal James, I think, is not as skilled as Ugas, since both Dulorme and Ugas both have excellent amateur pedigree, both win multiple international and national titles. Jamal James, I don't really think has a big amateur pedigree or career, since those guys from Cuba, Puerto Rico and same with other European countries, they just have a lot of amateur fights and amateur championships, and they bring out some of the best fighters in the business, like Miguel Cotto and another fighter from Cuba, Luis Ortiz, Kid Chocolate. They bring out just some of the best fighters from that region in the Caribbean. But my prediction for this fight is probably Thomas Dulorme getting a unanimous decision win. In my opinion, Dulorme has too much speed, too much skill for Jamal James to handle. It'll probably be similar to his fight versus Yordenis Ugas, where he just boxed his shoes off. But in my opinion, I think Dulorme does have more power than Ugas. But this could definitely happen where Jamal James catches Dulorme and could knock him out, as he does have 2 KO losses out of his 3. And I also forgot to mention Dulorme has a majority draw with Jesse Vargas, another notable name on his resume as well. And Jamal James really has not fought a lot of guys. He fought Abel Ramos, Yordenis Ugas, which he lost to. He's only lost to one big name, and that was his only really big name he fought. And he beat a post-prime Antonio DeMarco, as I said before, in a war. The judges scored that fight 98-92. The earlier rounds were close, but as it went on, DeMarco got tired, and Jamal James was just able to capitalize and win the rounds. But my final prediction is probably, as I said before, Dulorme's speed and skill to edge out over Jamal James' brawling style, and he'll probably get a unanimous decision win and pick up this WBA Interim Welterweight Title. Probably scoring a 116-112 is my prediction for the scorecards, or 117-111, being that Dulorme is just the more polished of the two, and that he's just a better boxer, plain and simple. And that's really it. I'm going to be boxing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.